he always gave me a hug and a big kiss, and always called me Billy Boy. And he was a delightful, wonderful Irishman but he played the devil, but he was an angel.
We lost one of the greatest minds in the wrestling business recently, the Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan. I want to go to you two. I know, Teddy, first of all, you were very close with Kevin. Can you share any memories with you and Kevin?
Well, I broke in on the Kevin and used to ride with Kevin and Nancy, God rest her soul, his ex-wife. Yep. I trained right under him back in the day when the NWO started. Kevin was booking that, and a lot of guys don't know, I can say it now, but every night that Kevin booked that, I was right there in the room with him. So that's why I got so much learning and so much experience from, being right there, and then after I got involved with Kevin, Kevin would ask me, things, what do you think, and I would say little things. And I remember one time I said something to Chris Benoit, we were talking, God rest his soul. And I just gave him an idea. I didn't mean nothing. And Chris turned right around. God, Teddy, that's great. So just being able to learn under the learning tree of Kevin Sullivan. There's another guy too, Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert. Those two guys, man, they certainly gave me a lot of knowledge. And I can say it now, but a lot of people never knew I was that close to either one of them.
I remember Kevin being on our show on Road Trip After Hours, which, by the way, if you want to catch that, go back into our archives. And Road Trip After Hours, there is a interview with Kevin Sullivan. And he brings up during that interview that you were in that room quite a bit, Teddy, when it came to the show Nitro and the invasion and everything else. And he said there were times even that he would lay out things, and Kevin Nash and Scott Hall would look over at you and go, Teddy, what do you think? Does that sound right? They wanted to find out from you if they were giving too much in some of the matches. And they would come to you to find that out. I thought that was really cool of Kevin to share those insights about that. And Bill, I know that you also know Kevin Sullivan very well over all these years.
Well, the Boston Brawler, so to say. I met him in the early 70s when he was a babyface. And I remember him listening to people like Eddie Graham, Dusty Rhodes, and just absorbing everything. I remember him teaming with Mike Graham as champions in Florida, tag team champions in Florida. He was one of the what we used to call in the magazines a scientific wrestler. I remember him when he worked for Vince McMahon Sr. He had feuds with Irish Pat Barrett and so many of the other guys. And then the time when he was dating Nancy Sullivan, who eventually became Nancy Benoit, and our photographer down there, Bill Otten, sent photos to the magazine of Kevin in this devil gimmick, which Kevin never, I've never revealed this, but he never wanted that gimmick to be in the magazine so people would think he was a devil worshiper. He really did.
Brother, I am the devil.
Right. But he never wanted people in them because the magazines went all over the world. Yep. And he sometimes would call me and just say, Billy, we're just doing this locally. I'd appreciate, you don't call me the devil and stuff like that. We kept doing it because it was the publisher liked what it looked like, and Bill Otten kept sending us pictures. But we stayed in touch.
Bill, I was going to say over the years too, Bill, Kevin has been associated with that character where people actually believe he may have been satanic. I mean, I've heard that my entire life.
Oh, no, I agree. Yeah. So then now after that gimmick, or during that gimmick, he started, and I saw him do this, giving advice to younger wrestlers. And then when he got into WCW, before he was put on the booking end of this thing, he was, like Teddy said, he was just talking about ideas and all that. And he became one of the main forces as a booker in that company that made that company soar to unbelievable heights because he was just, and I saw him backstage many times, even after Nancy went and started her relationship with Chris Benoit. He was always cordial to Chris as a booker. Teddy, do you remember that too?
Yeah.
You
Yes.
never knew there was any heat between the two of them at all. He was just very cordial to them, and I saw him at so many conventions afterwards, and he always gave me a hug and a big kiss, and always called me Billy Boy. And he was a delightful, wonderful Irishman but he played the devil, but he was an angel.
It was funny, not funny, but when we were recording Road Trip After Hours, our last episode, we started the show off with Teddy. He had just gotten a message from someone in the family saying that Kevin had gone into the hospital, and we were hoping that everything was going to be okay. But it was later that evening or early in the morning that Kevin passed away. And Kevin is, for many of those of you who are watching right now, a lot of what you saw in the past, back especially in the 90s, the 80s, that's Kevin Sullivan. His stamp is on a lot of matches and a lot of characters that you saw in wrestling. It came from the mind of Kevin Sullivan. And Teddy, I know that you told me a story one time. We'll close with this if you can remember, that you went to his house one time where Nancy was, but Nancy would not let you stay in the house for a reason, right?
No.
You remember? I thought you remember telling me that you and Kevin were enjoying some of the.
No. That wasn't Kevin. That was Eddie Gilbert.
Oh, that was Eddie Gilbert. Okay. That's the guy.
Look, I look like you've been enjoying some of whatever you're doing.
He's having like pit cracks. But one of the things.
I'll tell you a good story here, and I know you guys don't know this. A lot of people don't know, and only really Kevin and myself knew this. Me and Kevin was together. I forget where we were, but Hogan had went back to Vince, went to New York for just, I guess, a short run. But I forget who Hogan was working with that night, but Hogan called Kevin on the phone for a finish. Hogan wanted a finish on what to do. So I'm telling you, I was right there when that happened. That's another story, you know.
Kevin also was in the league of, with this whole gimmick that he did. He was in the league of King Curtis, Abdullah the Butcher, the original Sheik. Kevin Sullivan, whole gimmick, along with Mark Lewin and some of the other people, really was terrifying. It was it was way out there, yes. And it's almost like what the Wyatts are trying to do, but it was so believable you couldn't think it wasn't real.
And that's the reason it worked so well. Because it had those elements of reality, not those crazy way out there things. It had reality in there because there are crazy satanic people out there, and he tapped into that type of character perfectly and sold that character to everybody who was watching. Guys, we are out of time. Actually, we're a little bit over right now, but anything coming up for you two we need to talk about, Teddy?
No, you ain't got to talk about nothing.
Let's talk about that T-shirt. That's a good-looking T-shirt you got there.
Well, why don't you wear one if it's so good looking? You're part of Road Trip After Hours.
I'll wear mine on the next show. You will.
Oh, yeah, right. Sure you will.
See, I can't do Road Trip After Hours because my wife demands that I don't have after hours. I have to be in bed.
Anything coming up for you, Bill?
Yeah, the 76th anniversary of the National Wrestling Alliance will be at the 2300 Arena, which used to be the ECW Arena, on the last Saturday of August. So I will be there possibly in a official capacity and possibly just in an interview capacity.
Very good. And coming up in... Go ahead.
I wanted to say this too, man. This past weekend, I had a chance to go out with Booker T and do his show, Reality Wrestling. And man, what a great time I had out there. And Booker certainly got a great show, doing a lot of good things out there. Mark Henry stopped by. Boogeyman was there, so it was kind of like a reunion for all of us. So I had a good time at Reality Wrestling. Also, I was over in Waco, Texas for Hot Championship Wrestling. Had a great night there. So I just want to give those guys a big shout out.
And also
can you dig that, sucker?
And coming up in October, Bill and I will be hosting the International Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame ceremonies. We hope that you'll join us for that as well. We'll tell you more about that as we get closer, but we are out of time. This has been the Wrestling Time Machine. I'm your host, Mac Davis. That's WWE Hall of Famer Teddy Long, and of course, pro wrestling journalist, Mr. Bill Apter. We'll see you next week.
You at the matches. Stop yelling. Stop.
Holla!
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 You're fired.
Holla!
You're fired.
Check out BrainBuster, the daily quiz that tests your WWE knowledge with winning streaks, stats, and more. It's time to see if you're up for the challenge.